Hey, what's up, guys? It's Theory. Happy Friday. Appreciate you guys tuning in. For those that can't make it, we're going to be recording this today for video on demand for those to catch up on the content at a later point. But I'm excited. So for those that don't know, there's a lot of amazing Diablo 2 resources that are out in the wild, a bunch of staples like Ariat Summit and Amazon Basin that have existed for quite some time, for the last 20 or so years in the history of Diablo. But really, with the emergence of Diablo 2 Resurrected, you've seen a lot of new polished versions of sites coming out, things like Diablo 2 IO, which we're going to talk about. Obviously, Maxroll, Pure Diablo, who's continually updating content. And for me, they all kind of serve a very specific niche and purpose. And for Diablo 2 IO, we have the privilege of interviewing Teebling, the owner and the creative of the site, today in a little bit. But it really is unique. Its functional purpose is really first and foremost about a database and a marketplace for item discovery and understanding kind of mechanics and plumbings into the game. And so from a kind of adaptive and ability to intuitively find items and interview and kind of engage with the site, it's really unique and I think very different from others. And so with that, we're going to pull it right up. So for those that don't know the site, it would be diablo2.io. So if you actually use the exclamation point, which I put in the Discord stream, it'll actually show up, and I'm going to actually trigger that for you guys here on the side in the chat for those that want to click out to the link and follow along. So with that, I have Teebling here with me. So I'm going to kind of bring him in and start having a good discussion. So Teebling, you there?
Hey, everybody. Hey, my name's Teebling.
Hey, good to have you, man. Well, hey, first and foremost, like I said, just an amazing kind of thank you and just endorsement and congrats to the work that you and the contributors and all the mods on your team that have put into this. I organically discovered this through the Discord D2 Sanctuary, and that's kind of how Teebling and I got introduced. But man, I have to say, Teebling, super impressed with what you guys did in a short amount of time.
Well, thank you very much for the kind words there, and definitely want to just quickly give a big shout out to all the contributors, because they're the guys who had the real muscle and were able to put together what the site is today. So yeah, big shout out to those guys.
Yeah, definitely a big shout out to a few of those that I know personally. And yeah, it's just truly incredible. And so, Teebs, before we kind of jump in, I started kind of teasing a little bit, right, about, Ariat Summit, Amazon Basin, Maxroll, Pure Diablo, now obviously yours with Diablo 2 IO. There is a lot of what you could argue to be adjacent competition. But again, at least from my perspective, I think what you were trying to accomplish here is very unique in your kind of the approach, the foundational, the philosophical point to your site. So would you kind of help us and the viewers understand kind of what was the motivation or the impetus for you creating this, and kind of what came to mind, and kind of what's your vision with what you've created thus far?
So Diablo2.io is actually not the first Diablo 2 website I ever made. This is probably like my third or fourth attempt at creating a Diablo 2 website. So I actually started a long time ago, over 10 years ago now, just making sort of little forums and stuff like that. I think there's a bit of a problem with the old sound there, Theory.
Oh yeah, one sec. Let me see if here, talk now, Teebling.
Yeah, I'll just carry on going anyway. So I've made multiple attempts, and so they all failed for one reason or another. Either it's because I didn't have the technical experience, or because there wasn't enough interest. I got really excited for Diablo 3, and then a bit disappointed with how the game turned out, and I sort of lost interest. And then I work at sea in real life, and when you're out on the ocean and that, and you're looking out of the window, there's not really a lot to do. So I remember just sitting there one day and thinking, why don't I get back into website stuff, you know? And this was around last year. I'd say like March last year, 2020. And all these rumors started appearing on the internet again about a possible remaster of Diablo 2. So when I saw that, it really, really perked my interest. I'd I'd had a little bit of experience with like community sites before, as I mentioned. I made a sort of a sort of forum for WoW Classic, which is called barons.chat, which ended up being quite successful. And sort of, I thought, hey, well, why don't I try and do something similar, but for Diablo 2? It's inevitable that they're going to release a remaster of it, but regardless of that, I wanted to create a site that would stand alone, even if there wasn't a remaster. So I actually started out just as a Diablo 2 database, back when Resurrected was not even confirmed or anything. Yeah, so I started thinking about it. I started sketching down some ideas. I really liked what Wowhead did for WoW Classic when that came out in 2019. So I thought, well, there doesn't seem to really be anything like that for Diablo 2 at the moment. Something that you could search instantly and filter and so on and so forth. So that was kind of like where I came from. I have a sort of a bit of a background in making these amateur gaming community sites. Obviously, I love Diablo 2. I love Blizzard games. And yeah, just the opportunity presented itself, and I thought I'd get started. So started like a year ago or so. Yeah.
Well, hey, I can personally say that I am definitely happy. I don't see this as amateur. I think this is quite polished, and I think you guys did an amazing job here. And again, we talked about the legacy resources of Basin and Ariat Summit. They're just a bit archaic, right? They don't have the pizzazz, the pop. They haven't necessarily had kind of facelift, given that this was a 20-year-old game. And while the content and some of the mechanics and the plumbing and the academic nature of Diablo, the content is ultimately the same. I do think that really it needed a refreshing approach. And when you look what Max Roll, Pure Diablo, and now obviously what you've done here with IO, I do think it was a very much needed facelift for a lot of the Diablo community, and especially with now the Resurrected launching. So, with that, Teebs, actually, I want to kind of do some live navigation for the folks that are tuning in. And again, thank you all for joining today. Really appreciate the support for not only myself, but obviously Teebling and hopefully you guys, if you haven't engaged with Diablo 2 IO, definitely encourage you all to visit it and sign up and begin to engage the community. So, here's kind of the general layout. Again, Diablo2.io. You can do the exclamation if you need the hyperlink in the chat. But as you can see here, right, you have a pretty intuitive and easy navigation bar at the top. So you obviously have your core item database. You have a trading forum, which actually just was patched yesterday. So we're going to definitely spend some time on that. I think that this has been one of the most vocal and requested needs for the Diablo community for an alternative to D2JSP. So really excited to show what Teebling and the teams have done there. Active forums, which are obviously kind of just your chat engagement with the community and just kind of an about function. So, one thing I actually wanted to show is obviously just kind of your own profiles. And so when you kind of create yourself, right, you can obviously build your own avatar, your own identity within the D2IO community. And so what you're seeing here is obviously my personal profile. And so the way that the site is structured is that you can obviously choose, hey, what type of character do you tend to play? Are you a single player? Are you softcore versus hardcore? Obviously having the ability to hyperlink and link out to your BNet tag, your Discord. So if folks want to kind of find you in alternative communication platforms, makes it really easy to do that. And then just in general, right, helping you look at your statistics in terms of, hey, have I contributed? How many posts of mine have been liked, right? So it has definitely a very community feel towards it, which I really appreciate. And again, a good amount of actually customization in terms of being able to have your different avatars, kind of different aesthetics on the site. And so I think they did a really great responsive and adaptive job with how they let you as the individual actually get the experience on the site. So I definitely wanted to show this. So let's kind of jump into the database. And again, Teebling, feel free to kind of have me navigate, or if you want me to kind of highlight things, but you can kind of see here in a tile format, Super intuitive, very logical and easy to navigate. So obviously broken down by the item type. So you have the ability to, as you can see here, hover and immediately responds. So without even having to click in. So from just a quick view perspective, you'll notice this type of logic and functionality throughout the navigation of the site. So you can kind of quickly understand, okay, what's Natalia's totem? What does the helm have? What are the ranges without me even having to query into the database or actually click in? So for me personally, this is an amazing, obviously efficiency feature. And so thank you to Teebling and Co for coding this in, because it makes a significant difference, as a lot of the other sites don't necessarily, in my opinion, have that same level of intuitive function. And so you do have to kind of do more of a control F search feature, scroll up, scroll down. And so this does make item discovery very seamless. So let's kind of quick into all uniques. One of the other things that I love about this is it's also the filtering, I think, is key. I think Teebling hit that in the beginning, but it's not just about being able to query an individual item, scrolling up, scrolling down, using your legacy control F5 function. But again, this filtering to me is some of the best in the business. So while I joke, Teebling, you called it amateur, I actually do think that this is one of the better optimized databases that I've seen, especially because of filtering. So for example, right, let's pull down item type. Let's say that I want to go look at helms. So as you can see, right, immediately just from one click, you can kind of see some of the top unique items that are showing up. Obviously, you can see this here, and we can break that down more by skills. So if I want to look at sorcerer's skills, oops, sorry, we got to go back here to, should be showing, one sec. Yeah, there we go. So you can kind of see, right, so now we chose sorcerer's skills, and so now you can see a bunch of the items that are showing up. And so as you guys are relaunching in D2R and you're looking for builds, or you're trying to more quickly discover items, again, the filters are really awesome here, and your ability to obviously custom sort as well based on alphabetical, durability, treasure class, etc. So I don't know if Teebs, if you want to put any comment here on this, but again, just a big kudos on the filtering and feature function. It's very intuitive and easy to use.
Yeah, well, thanks very much for the kind words again. If you just want to sort of browse around and click items and stuff like that, I just want to talk a little bit about how we actually constructed this database. So the really big challenge for the site and the whole idea of the site was that the information for these items and skills and recipes and monsters, it all existed out there already. But it was completely stratified. So it was, on some sites you'd be able to see the quality level, whereas on another site you'd be able to see the treasure class of the item. Or you'd go on one website and there were just, the wrong stats, or something didn't line up with the in-game values. I mean, it was completely a mess. And I thought that one of the big challenges was getting all of that data and standardizing it not only in presentation but also the actual values themselves. So one of the sort of big things that the contributors put a lot of work into was verifying the data, so actually looking at in-game files or comparing what websites had. And we actually found a lot of stuff out there that was either wrong or it was like presented in such a way that would be confusing. They've been incredibly diligent and picked up a lot of stuff that that is not so obvious. So I like to think that what the guys have done is they've made something that is trustworthy, and where there are corrections to be made, it's easy for people to voice their concern about it and have those things changed. So that was one big thing.
Yeah, and Teebs, what I don't want to cut you off, but I think you actually nailed something critical that I think the D2 community knows all too well, is unfortunately the inaccuracy of academic information in the wild. I've even been someone kind of exposed to that, right? Where you're trying to look at, what are your top e-bug ranges for fortitude or exile bases? And, you could look at 2 to 3 different properties and they're all kind of within a variance of one another, but then it's always really hard to validate, which one is actually the accurate set of data. And so I think the fact that you guys were vigilant and took the diligence to verify and validate this information is really appreciated, at least from me, and I'm sure the audience and those future members of D2IO, because again, the amount of infighting that the Diablo 2 community tends to have about who's right, who's wrong, well, this source, that source, it gets to be a little bit of a vicious cycle at times about finding that information, especially just the economics and the calculus in the back end for ranges and what have you and percentages. So yeah, just wanted to do a +1 plug there. We definitely appreciate the diligence you guys put in on that.
Yeah, that's all thanks to the contributors. So when I was sort of designing the site, I was thinking to myself, you know, geez, like how am I going to make 5,000 pages? You know, like, am I going to do all of that myself? Or, you know, there was a lot of data to be collected and categorized and sorted and so on and so forth. And my initial idea was to try and automate it with a script. So I thought to myself, okay, well, I'll learn a bit of Python and, you know, get maybe like a parsing script or something like that to look through the game files. But as I looked more and more into it, I found that there was very little standardization in Diablo 2. I mean, the items are all over the place. There's so many weird and wonderful items there, and sometimes things just don't really line up in a structurally sound way. And there were a lot of edge cases, and that's why I think Diablo 2 is such an amazing game, because it has all these quirks and characteristics. And but obviously, from my perspective as a developer, that made it incredibly difficult to to try and organize things and, you know, try and get things together. So anyway, I ditched the automation idea, and I thought, well, I guess the only way to do this would either be doing it all myself, which would take a decade, or I could try and crowdsource it. So I came up with the idea of contributors, and a couple of really, really nice people joined early on. I just want to shout out Stormlash especially, and Sealk and Udire, all of the early guys who came on and started contributing stuff. And then that sort of just snowballed, and they put in something like 3,000 contributions, I think. I haven't looked at the stat yet, but you know, they just put in a lot of work into actually getting the data together and posting on the site.
Yeah, and Stormlash, and I think a few of them are here, so I can see Stormlash gave you a nice little love back. So yeah, and again, +1 to Stormlash and everybody you called out. Obviously, I've got to engage with them personally in Diablo 2 Sanctuary Discord, and it's just been an amazing community to get to know you all and kind of look at what you guys have built. And you know, I will say, and you know, one thing that Teebling hit that I think is important for the viewers watching and those is that really anybody can contribute here, right? And I think that's a critical point, that well, obviously he does have mods and contributors. You know, if anybody, and you can see here, right, reporting bugs or reporting misinformation, you know, if you guys are engaging with the site, you do believe that something is inaccurate or you have an opinion that's different, right? They're very open to feedback, and I think that's critically important. The site is only as good as the user's feedback that it can provide and manage up to Teebling and Co. And so, you know, as those are engaging with the site, please definitely don't be shy. Do feel free to also contribute. And Teebs, correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe, again, that obviously you have put some information in here to be able to help right here. Is there anything I can do to help contribute to the site? And so real quick, if we visit this topic and we can actually delve into the forums, you've given a really good overview here of kind of your expectations on, hey, how do you want things to be scribed and written? Kind of what would you be looking for? And so I do think that that's my favorite part of D2IO, is that it's not just for Teebling, it's not just for the mods, right? If anyone wants to contribute, they can. And if they see an item that has not been transcribed or really queried or built out on the database yet, you know, you have that flexibility to do so. So that's just my personal plug. And I think that, you know, I haven't admittedly done any of the contributions yet, and I do intend to help out where I can. But I thought that was a bit unique. I think most other sites are going to gate that access. They're not going to necessarily have it be extensible to those that want to help. So, Teebling, I don't know if you want to kind of comment there at all, and if that was deliberate and prescriptive. But again, I thought that that's a bit unique to D2IO, that you are open to having folks directly contribute without needing to make it difficult.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, as someone just said in the chat there, it is a community-driven site. So what I think the mid and long-term sort of how can I put this, strengths of the site is that over time people will be adding more comments, they'll be adding more insight on items, they'll be adding images of items, they'll be updating the data, they'll be, you know, constantly growing the website's value for each individual item and entry. And you know, that kind of like interconnection between items and stuff is all driven by the users themselves. And yeah, that was definitely like a big part of the design, really, because it's still early days and there's a lot of work being done by the contributors. But so, you know, some of these item pages are still quite bare. So you'll have like, you know, a base item, it doesn't even have a description yet or anything like that. So by all means, guys, you know, what I want to do with this site is I want to harness the wisdom of the Diablo 2 community. I want to get all of that knowledge that I know is there in your heads after 20 years of playing this crazy game, right? And to have it all consolidated on the website in a free sort of open manner. And yeah, you know, that's definitely part of what the site's about. And please, by all means, you know, get involved. It's very quick to set up an account and you can start commenting and posting stuff, you know, straight away.
100%. And yeah, like I said, I mean, this is it is a community, just to kind of underscore that. And I think, you know, it's very evident, right, by the engagement in the forums. And this is why I wanted to pull this up. You know, I think that the mods and Teebling and everyone, you know, are looking to be generally active. I think Teebs, if I'm not mistaken, you guys have just north of 400 members. And so, like we said, you know, it is still being discovered organically in terms of D2IO. I do trust and hope that, you know, this gets more in the wild and federated out to those in the community, that they can organically discover this and engage. Because again, I do think, just purely, again, if we're just even talking about an item query in a database, it's top of the line, truly, as the folks can see here. And, you know, one thing I wanted to show, that while it's obvious up here and you can see search the database, it's actually not something I tested yet. But again, outside of just going to the database parent tab up on the left, obviously from just a very quick direct link functionality, if I wanted to say, hey, what are the stats on Nightwing again? Boom, there you go. Again, I can click in, or I can easily hover over. I can totally understand the statistics and the nature of the item. The other quick deep linking here is this little drop down arrow. So obviously you have a couple different options. Do I want to search the item database? Do I actually want to search or query semantics or certain topics and functions within the forums? Do I want to search for members? So again, just not even talking about the parent and kind of the sub modules here, but just from the upper right hand perspective to, you know, very quickly deep link in is also just another amazing function that I love about the site. I think with that, Teebs, you know, one thing I'd love to delve into is your brand spanking new trading forum. I think that I alluded to it in the opening, and I think the community can agree unanimously that, you know, this has been something that we've all been yearning for. Obviously, with the advent of D2JSP, I think, you know, we all saw the in-game trading economics and currency essentially plummet, right? A lot of folks went to single player, TCP/IP. Obviously, it was botnet. And so I think really a lot of the economy started to gravitate towards the epicenter of JSP. And so I think what a lot of folks are hopeful for with D2R is, can we see a reinvigoration or a reemergence of the trading economy back in game? And so part of the open question was, in all these different Discord communities or from web applications, there really wasn't anything that existed today, for the most part, in terms of trading, again, in a non-JSP function. I think Discord trading is very difficult. If you look at what PD2, Project Diablo 2 deals with, there's just so many people querying and typing in for needs and offers. It gets very, very difficult and messy to track and modify and update. And so I still think that this is a void that has to be solved. And so I'm excited to show, you know, what Teebs literally launched. I think it was yesterday that he put the patch out, and kind of what he's trying to build out as well as a part of D2IO, not just an item database. So I'm just going to do a little poke around, and then I definitely want to have Teebs do some narration here in terms of the approach. But you can see here, again, this is all kind of, call it dummy data. Obviously, people who want to toy with it, you can come into the site today. You can build your own test trades. I would definitely encourage you to do so. So obviously, these are not real trades that we're showing today, just some examples that have been keystroked in. But, you know, similar to the database, you can notice at the top, there's obviously some meta functions. So for example, one of the important ones here is obviously the cross progression in the console. So are you PC? Are you PlayStation? Are you Xbox? Obviously by realm, the types of items. And so obviously as you're kind of clicking into this, right, there's ways to do specific trades, obviously clicking in. One thing that I actually also love about this that we'll show is here's an example actually with Stormlash, where I think one of the critical pieces of trading is what's your rep, right? Are you GM? Are you BM? Have you scammed, right? And being able to have some type of kind of rep score, if you will, where you can come in here and say, hey, I successfully traded with Stormlash. I'm going to obviously give him a plus, right, to show that he's a GM trader. He's not a scammer. The trade went smoothly, and then it also not only shows again who the item was traded to, but also ultimately the rep score of that user that you're trading with. So I do think that hopefully will help build some camaraderie and trust to use the system like this, because I think there's always that trust issue with new platforms like this, which is, is it going to scale? Are people going to use it? Am I going to get scammed? And so I think natively, Teebs, you had to build something in here, right, that at least, right, tried to show some type of functionality around, hey, yeah, is this user actually a legitimate trader?
Yeah, so I mean, that's going to be a challenge in the future, certainly. We'll be policing all of this. So people are going to eventually find a way to, they're gamers, right? I mean, we're all gamers. We're all going to find the path of least resistance. And, that's something that I obviously got to consider for the future. But yes, there is a trade reputation system. It's very basic. You just give somebody a point of trust if you've completed a trade with them successfully. And you can also report people for, things like, bots and automation, or the use of real money trading, or any sort of like dishonorable trading kind of like stuff. You can report traders for that, and of course that will be taken very seriously and taken off. So yeah, that system does exist. I guess the big thing that I really wanted to do with the trading thing was to look hard at prices. So prices in Diablo 2 are kind of nuts. If you just go to the price check page there, Theory, what one of the contributors has done is he's translated a German language resource, which is by this guy called Grim Battle. And he basically listed the price of every single commonly traded item in the game, describing, its value at the time, like how many high runes it was worth, or if it's perfect, or if it's socketed, how does that affect its value and stuff like that. And it was just this incredible resource, raw resource that I saw. And Udaret, again, one of the contributors, he actually got all of this information together. He collated it, he annotated it, he added color coding, he obviously all the tooltips, the actual items are there. And I just think that was one thing I wanted to have, because it will be interesting to observe how those prices from vanilla Diablo 2, with all the botting in JSP and stuff like that, how is the market going to look when Resurrected comes out? If the anti-botting stuff that they have is as good as they say it is, then how is that going to affect prices? So I thought that would be a really nice reference to have in place. So you can see that there, the theories going through it.
Yeah, honestly, admittedly, because this was just launched last night and I was still poking around it, I did not even see this in the sub module. So this is amazing. Yeah, I think again with JSP, part of the issue, and I think you started to hit on it, which is, and look, I'll admit it. I've been on JSP. I think it was where a lot of the economy was, and so for some time, right? If you were playing on BattleNet and there weren't any in-game trades and you were looking for items, well, naturally, I think like many of us, we did try JSP, obviously begrudgingly, but it just ultimately was easy. It was obviously the epicenter of the economy, but to your point, we all think still sometimes with a form gold mentality. So, again, if you're used to using JSP and let's say you have a reset and an room is going to be 20 forum gold, 30 forum gold, and every season or reset you go in there, that's typically the way that your psyche or the mind goes to immediately, is what you know, and that currency style. And so, I do think that this is going to be critical because, again, like, right, what is a Atma Scarab worth? What is a Nokazan relic out of the gate? And so I think while this isn't gospel, obviously these are frameworks and guides. These are directional. Items in trades are always going to be subjective, right? How badly do you need an item? Have you done 500 Pindle runs and you just can't find the item that you want, and you're willing to sacrifice or overpay or possibly underpay in a certain function to acquire something? And so, again, great work here by the team, just creating this price check functionality. Thank you for highlighting that, Teebs. I actually didn't even see that since it launched last night. So incredible here to at least provide some, like I said, runway to a user on, hey, cool, I have an rune. What could I get for this? What's the end game currency?
Yeah, sure. And I wanted that to be also backed up by actual real data from the trades that were completed on the site. So if you look at the top of the price check page there, you can see a price checker tool. So anytime a trader marks a trade as sold, the database actually saves the items that it sold for, which means that I can query that data later on in lots of different tools. But this is a very basic implementation of it, which is simply, I've got this item, how much is it worth? And I've looked through the lists and I've maybe asked in the sub forum for an appraisal, but I want to see what it's actually sold for in the past. And you can just type in like Harlequin's Crest into that price checker tool. And it will show you that it sold for, I think, 4 ist or something like that. And that will be really nice to have over time, because the more items that are sold, the much better data is available for people to look at. They can look at the price history basically of an item as it's being sold on the community, and on top of everything else, that will help them gauge the value of the item. So that was one big thing I wanted to do with the trade stuff, was to find ways for people to get around the crazy pricing structures that are in place at the moment. It may look different in Resurrected, granted, but I did want to focus on prices quite a lot.
Well, look, you did hit something, right? And it goes back to JSP, which is, if you wanted to go see and query items that were sold and what it was sold for, right? It was a bit seamless to do that. And so I think that this is key here, to your point, that you are essentially putting in the database and the chest, right? What was it sold for? It's discoverable, it's transparent. And again, subjectively, the user can determine what they ultimately want to pay to acquire or sell their item. But yeah, as a proxy, it definitely gives some insight into, what am I going to have to pay to get a shack? Okay, this sold for 5 ists. Okay, I know I'm in that beltway. I don't necessarily have 5 ists, but obviously I kind of can converge to that point and know what I need. And so that's definitely key. And actually, I wanted to actually say something, Teebs. I don't know if you're watching the chat. I'm calling him Pear for short, but yeah, interesting idea, Pear. So Teebs, he's talking about, right now this is ultimately focused on the vanilla, D2R kind of core function, and obviously Diablo 2 classic, if you will. But he brought up an interesting idea, which was I was alluding to mods, right? And PD2, which is obviously one of the more popular Ascended mods with Senpai something. And, the challenge they have, they also, I think, if I'm not mistaken, have built out some trading functions on their site. I had played PD2 for a little bit and I had tested it. But admittedly, I haven't really tried the trading on their platform on the application. But he was basically asking if there is possibly an intention or an interest at some point in going back to this kind of trading platform, expanding beyond not just classic and D2R, but possibly looking at mod support. Is that something that you thought about at all, or a possible interest? Just wanted to get the question your way.
Yeah, I did see that in chat per Spirat, so thanks for your question. Yes, I'm considering supporting other types of renditions of the game. So actually this is actually one of the first requests I ever got actually for the site, was a fellow called Dark Master, and he said, can we please put in the database values for the items as they were in previous versions of the game, like in version like pre-LOD stats, or like if a patch changed the item, can we put that in there? So I got thinking about it, and obviously, I love Diablo 2, so I know about Path of Diablo, slash Diablo, and of course the huge modding community that are out there, especially Frozen Keep, PH Frozen Keep. They're a fantastic bunch of guys, and they've been modding this game for 20 years, and the technical knowledge they have is absolutely superb. And yeah, I mean, just sorry, I'm going a little bit off tangent here, but the leg is that, like, the fact that there is so many amazing mods out there for this game is just a testament to its legacy. And I really hope the Resurrected modding does take off. Will I add support for these mods? I think so eventually. The thing you guys have got to realize is that I am just one guy. I'm the only developer. And I've got a real life as well, and this stuff takes a lot of time. So getting the site to where it's been now has been a process of about 1.5 years, from sketches to what you're seeing on your screen right now. And there are still a lot of highly requested features that are going to make it to the live platform before I'll be launching stuff for other mods. But yes, that is potential for that, and it is on the development roadmap for the future. But what I would say is don't expect it anytime soon, because there is a lot more stuff being requested, which is of higher priority.
Appreciate that, and I'm sure the community did as well. And again, knowing you and getting to communicate with you and meet the team, I think you guys have been very receptive, not defensive of your turf, and certainly open to that feedback, like I said in the critique. So I have no doubt that you definitely will take that into serious consideration. But I think as we kind of start to wrap this up, as I think we've done a really great initial overview for the folks, and definitely, by the way, for those that are live and those that are going to watch this on demand, please encourage you to check out the site, get an account created. Feel free to introduce yourself in the forums. There's actually a section in the forums for introducing yourself, and that way everybody can kind of see who's coming into the community. So for those that want to kind of jump into D2IO, definitely want to put a solicited endorsement and a request out there to you guys to jump in, have some fun, and engage. But in closing, Teebs, and again, appreciate your time today. I know we're in time zone differences, so appreciate you kind of staying on a little bit later. What would you like to share with the community that's listening and tuning in terms of kind of what's your vision? And you talked about the roadmap a little bit. Obviously, the trading is just getting launched, which is going to be a critical area of focus. But beyond what we've experienced today and the current patch and the beta of the site, what's kind of the next step for D2IO? Kind of anything that you want to share from an innovation or a development standpoint that you think would be interesting for everyone to hear about?
Oh, well, my to-do list is massive. I mean, it's so big, it's split up into different sections. Every single bug report that I get, excuse me, and every single feedback request that is made, I screenshot it and I put it in a folder. And that folder's got something like 200 screenshots in it. And, each of those screenshots could be something very simple, just like, changing the text in this area, or it could be a request for like a whole section of the site. So I do record all of your requests. And like I said before, I've got to be realistic with development time and what I'm able to achieve. But I do take all of those requests quite seriously, and I do save them. So if I don't respond to you immediately, just know that it's there. It's sitting in a folder called bugs, and it's got a bug icon on it, or feature requests or whatever. What's next for the site? Well, the big priority now is performance streamlining. So getting it ready for production, getting it ready for a larger audience. That might mean a server upgrade or something like that, as I expect a little bit more traffic than usual when the game comes out. Feature-wise, the next thing that will be coming out will be a Holy Grail tracking tool. So you'll be able to sort of like just add items to your collection and sort them, and have a sort of Tetris faux stash, if you like, sort of like a pseudo stash in your profile where you can have all your Holy Grail collection and stuff like that with stats. There's also going to be a resurrected switch for graphics, initially just for items, but the item artwork in Resurrected, as you all know, is brilliant, and I want to have that there on the site. So there'll be like a switch for Resurrected graphics back and forth. Further to that, just grab up my list.
Well, as you're looking at that, I haven't personally. Well, I've always attempted the Grail. It's more of a patience game, but I know that there's definitely those out there that will love and appreciate that functionality as well. So that's awesome. On top of the trade stuff that you're looking at, and yeah, and again, for those listening or even those that are going to watch this at a later point, as Teebling solicited, if you have suggestions for the site, other resources, tools, mechanics, things that you want to see included in this, feel free to drop a line of Teebling in Discord. You can obviously discover him or message him directly through D2IO. Or if you want to ever stop by my stream and honestly just ask any questions to me, or I can redirect any feedback to Teebling, feel free. As I will be streaming quite a bit, doing D2R as an adult, like most of us with kids. As Teebs joke, time gets tough, so you intend to stream more, and then obviously you get sidetracked a lot. But I think with the release of D2R, going to definitely try to stream more consistently, and as I said, certainly support and endorse D2IO here. Not that I'm not going to use other resources like Maxroll and Pure Diablo. Again, I think that they can all coexist in a happy family, but just for me personally, I've had an amazing experience with D2IO. But Teebs, is there anything else? I know you said you might be looking on your notes.
Yeah, I guess there was just one more thing I wanted to mention about future features, which is that, well, now we've built this huge database and there's just so much data in there, and it can all be queried with tools. So things like breakpoint calculate, excuse me, things like breakpoint calculators and which areas to farm for this item, or looking, is it possible for this item to drop from X NPC or from Y area? There's all these different tools, mini tools that I can create, which leverage all of that database data. So yeah, that's kind of like a big thing as well. But yeah, I guess that's it from me. I mean, I just want to say thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak freely about the site here, and for being so supportive. I really appreciate that opportunity, Theory. So thank you very much. Thanks to everybody who's come and watched today as well, for your input in the chat. And yeah, I guess I'll hand it over to you, Theory.
Yeah, no, again, huge thanks to even allowing me to do this with you. Again, as I joked, this is a first for me. I've typically just done some streaming. Thanks for the follow. Sorry, the volume's a bit loud since I had to add some gain for Teebs. Appreciate the follow, man. John Token. But yeah, no, this was a first for me. It was a new experience doing an interview and kind of more pseudo content versus streaming. So again, thank you for trusting me to do D2IO justice. I hope I did that today for those viewing in and supporting Teebs, the mods, and the site. So yeah, with that said, again, would appreciate kind of personally any follows. Obviously, I am going to be engaging a lot with D2R. I am intending to post this to my YouTube for just video on demand, because I think, as most know, Twitch do intend to usually purge sites. And so for you, Teebling, and anyone that want to obviously share, like, support, or share this with other G2 streamers or getting this out in the community, I know I'm speaking for Teebs, but we would really appreciate, obviously, getting D2IO scaled and built out. So again, happy Friday, guys. Thank you so much for the chatter, the support, tuning in. And I'll be catching you guys soon in about, 14 or so days when D2R actually gets live. So cheers, everybody. And thanks again, Teebs.
Thanks, guys. Enjoy D2.